Hey, Miss Tina, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful. What's your puppy's name? I see puppy in the background.
That's Max, Mad Max.
Hi, Renee. Yeah, I could hear her next door.
I moved offices, so we're next to each other now.
You should try the green screen aspect of that office. It's awesome.
I know. You know what though? I need to get a ring light because I was just on a Zoom call and I feel like it makes me look like yellow.
I'll say I don't have a light in here you can borrow. But...
I have a little one that I have set up at home that I use, but maybe I'll just bring it here.
Where are all of our peoples at?
Send it in the GroupMe chat.
Right? Where the heck are you?
Because there's been a couple of weeks where I just forgot to put it on my calendar.
You should just subscribe to the Keller Williams calendar because it's always.
But then it adds every single freaking thing. Now I need to go through and delete the ones that I don't need to go to. Otherwise, it'll be a scheduling nightmare for Jason.
We don't want the scheduling nightmares.
He'd be like, "Why do you have all this
All
stuff?"
right. Miss Shannon, how are you? Haven't seen your face in a while.
I know. Hello. Normally, I try to watch them if I can, if they're posted. But I'm able to actually hop on today. So yay.
Yay. No, I like live better than anything because we can start asking questions. Big things we want to take away or some topics we're going to talk about. I don't care if it's just a couple of us. We always give a couple minutes for people to come in because for one thing I know is that real estate agents are habitually late for things for some reason.
Never.
Hey, I was showing a house.
Sure. Looks like you're in your van. Real house looking there, Mike.
I am. I'm showing a house in my house.
There you go. Did you write
down by the river?
Down by the river.
We're actually heading. Oh, you wait, that ad's coming out. Yeah, actually, we're looking at writing an offer on it. So, been kind of tough. We've been beaten out by 3 already. So, let's give it a shot.
I keep getting people that want new builds, which suck, but just because I want to get paid.
Well, put them on a new build, you get paid eventually.
Eventually.
Hey,
I would rather have new
My
builds than
720 buyers.
driving around for 15
Yeah, but
hours.
you fill up.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, because it's. And you know it's there in the future, so you can fill up your pipe in between.
Yeah.
Or you hope it's there in the future.
Get buyers for months, and then they decide to go new build. I got my 720 deal working though, so that'll be huge.
Huge. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, today, guys, there's not a lot of us on here right now, but we want to talk a little bit about the importance of asking good questions. There's one thing I talk about all the time. It's the power triangle. Do you remember what the power triangle is, Mike? Well, it's going to be hard for Mike when he's driving, but the power triangle is the 3 most impactful questions you can ask someone to incite a lot of energy in a conversation. I'm going to grab the host so I can share a screen and draw a picture. And what this is this represents the most energy exciting questions you can possibly have. I'm going to use Tina as an example because I know Tina hasn't been on this call before. Tina, when I ask you the question, why weren't you here yesterday? How do you feel?
Like, why? I don't know why.
Why were you late? Why aren't you here on time?
So I guess I would feel defensive if I didn't know what it was for, if I didn't feel guilty.
Yeah, why are you on this call?
Me, I mean, truthfully, to learn.
I'm saying now you still have to be defensive because now I'm challenging your decision to be here, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Why is a victimizing question? Why makes you feel challenged? Now I ask the same questions. What made you late? What made you join this call? Now it's fortifying. It's getting you to create an energy around the conversation and not so much just whoa, calm down there. Why are you asking so many questions, right? We want to stay away from why questions because why questions create a different element where people actually feel a little bit challenged, a little bit defensive. And those why questions are very troubling because it's so quick for us to ask why. You know, I want to paint my car blue. Why? Why do I need to defend my answer, right? So that's why we talk about the power angles, the power triangle of how we're going to actually engage better in a higher level. So I'm going to share my screen here where you guys can see my awesome drawing skills. You ready for these? All right. So draw a line. I'm going to draw one. And you guys want to do the same lines in your things. As soon as I can figure out how to do a second line, we'll be all right. So on a piece of paper on your desks, Mike, don't do it, you're driving. Create yourself a triangle and split it into 3 equal sections. Equal-ish sections, I should say. This is what a triangle is, right?
Are we gonna write stuff in between them? Like, do I need a big piece of
We
paper?
are definitely going to be writing stuff in the middles. And since we've already identified that why is not a good question because it's very challenging, do you think why is an energetic question? So we're going to put why outside the triangle because why does not create energy.
The wrong energy.
We are looking at things that need to be, energetic. So next, what do you think the next question needs to be? What do you feel like the next best way to ask a question should be? What should we write here? What word do I keep saying over and over again?
Why?
What? Good call.
What?
What? Now,
But you got to use a U.
What?
What?
What? So, all joking aside, what is a great way of taking a why question and creating a better engaging response? We can take why and change it with what. So, what made you late? What has you here? What's important about selling your house? Why are you selling your house? What's important about that? Right? One of my favorite questions, what's important about that? What does that mean to you? What are you going to gain from that? What? It really gets people to start talking stories. Why creates an element where they're going to shrink and shut up. What allows them to communicate that thought, the what behind it? How can we ask an even better question? How can we choose a different word to create a higher engaging question than what or why?
Who?
How can you use a question like this to create better engaging conversations? How many of you have figured out what word I'm talking about?
I would use how.
How? Great job.
Because it allows them to explain their, yeah.
How? Mike's absolutely right. How allows people to get engaged with their emotions behind it. When you ask somebody, how is it going? It allows them to touch to an emotion. How are we going to do that? Lets the brain just start making connections so that we can start thinking about different opportunities of growth, different opportunities to get it done. How is a question that creates thought? How is a question that creates a lot of energy so that you can get people to start thinking creatively, emotionally, and get out of logic? How come you chose to be on this call? How come you are selling your house? How can selling your house benefit you? How can buying this property make your life better? And how will this get you to that? How is a lot more tricky of a question asked than what, because it makes the person you're talking to start to come up with experience-based solutions. How often creates elements where people have been in a situation before, will go back to that situation again. So sometimes we need to remind them of different courses of actions. And usually we do that by introducing the next thing. Now, who can guess what the next question should be? Who's following along so far? right? Who's writing all this stuff down? Who's figured out what the top of the pyramid should be?
Who?
Who exactly? Who? Tina, did you figure it out?
Who?
How'd you figure it out? What'd you come up with? Why did it take you so long to answer?
Well, I remember hearing you talk about it this morning. So who was on my notes, and you keep saying who. So who knows?
Who knows? Who is the most energetic question you can make? And I say energetic because I don't mean like over the top Labrador or Chihuahua energy where they're running around questions. Who is a question that challenges the brain the highest level? And when I ask questions along the lines of why are you selling your house? What's making you sell your house? How can selling your house, help your future out? And lastly, whose decision was it to sell the house? Which one do you think has the most mental impact? Who are you selling the house for? Who gains from the sell or the buy, right? When we can line in these 4 types of questions, we can understand how to control conversations. Who, how, what, and then why. Now, this is completely opposite if you look at the TED Talk, I can't remember the guy's name, but he talks about the power of why. They get down to, it's not what you do, it's how you do it, it's why you do it. That's the philosophy of what you're doing. The other side of that is the question triangles. When we're asking powerful questions, we want to make sure that we're asking questions that are going to excite energy. And in doing so, you're going to create a much better engagement with your client so that you can understand what they're looking for, how it's going to affect their life, and who's involved in the decision making. You think if you can answer those 3 questions, you might have a whole lot better opportunity of engaging them in a deal? The who is something we often don't focus on because we don't know how. Ask yourself those questions, right? Why did I get in this business? How is it, what am I doing? How am I doing? Who am I doing it for? And find out what answers come up with. Is that the world famous Wesley, Laura? Yeah. Sidebar situation. You guys didn't see the Facebook group, and by the way, Renee, Jason's calling me for some reason, so just gonna have to wait. I'm on.
Carlton?
Yeah.
I was just on a Zoom with him.
But sidebar conversation is Laura met her neighbors who did not know she was in real estate, so I challenged her to go let people know who she was. And by doing so, she's making a flyer and her dog's on it and her kids are on it, and it's awesome. So I love you. Go check it out, the Facebook group, KWA Facebook. It's Keller Williams PC, KWSA PC. So if you're not part of the group, I'll add you in. But it's it's Facebook/groups/KWSA PC. But when you're asking powerful questions, you can engage a lot more interaction with somebody, right? If you're not getting somebody to make a decision, we may have a missing part, and it's probably the who. Who needs to be involved in the conversation? Who needs to be making decisions? Who's going to benefit from it? Those 3 questions typically can help you guys out whatever interaction you need to have. If you got one party that is completely designed on, yeah, let's get the household, we want to do it, absolutely, and then you keep going, well, you signed a listing agreement. No, we're not quite ready yet. Who are they talking to? Who's also involved you don't know about? If you can answer these questions, and you can get a lot more engagement. But remember, staying away from why is a good thing. It doesn't mean you can't ask why questions. Just know that when we do so, we're losing volume in our energy. That's a really loud chair. So, any questions on that? I know it's quick. It's a quick, simple thing, but it engages a lot of the brain. So, any questions on that part? No? Yes? Maybe so?
I'm good with it. It makes total sense. That's usually what I try to. I try to ask what's important about a number. What's the reason for making a move, or location or anything like that. So I can do better at it for sure. But I definitely have tried to avoid why for that reason, just because of the way it makes me feel.
And that's the good thing is once you start realizing the questions you ask actually make you feel a certain way as well. I don't know what Amber's doing, but she's talking.
My dog keeps ripping them right behind me. It's so bad.
So, but like to Mike's point, knowing how the questions resonate with you, it goes back to scripts and role play. We do it every morning. We ask powerful questions, and I challenge you every day to do this. It does not mean that's the only time you do these things. If you find yourself stuck on a situation, or if you're asking questions, you don't feel like you're getting very much response, what kind of questions are you asking? How can we ask better questions, and who can you partner with to make those questions better? One challenge you can have is waiting until game day to practice. The only analogy I can really make is who's ever done that? Waited until the event before you got ready. Waited until dinner time to figure out what you were going to eat. Yeah. Finally got you guys on something. Trust me.
It kind of causes failure.
Failure to plan is a plan to fail. So I want you guys to practice and script out and challenge yourselves to grow so that you can have better engaging conversations that allow you to take a lead to a contract. And that's about getting to know people. On the other call the other day was Paige. She's an agent on the Jeremiah Taylor team. She's on her scripts and role play. And she said, hey, Dan, I realized the other day I was talking to one of my leads I was following up with, and they were giving me very short answers. They were being very short with me on the phone. And then I realized I was asking them closed questions. I was asking them poor questions. She was asking questions that responded with yes or no or one-word answers. So the second part of asking great questions is how can we take a question that typically be answered with a 1 or 2 word response, a short response, and turn it around so that it excites the person you're talking to answer in volume. Devlin, what's your favorite color?
Green.
Green? How can we change this question to be a little bit more exciting, right? Devlin, tell me about your favorite color.
Have you seen all the options out there?
It's very hard for somebody. You ask that question, what's your favorite color? They can answer green, blue, red, yellow, pink, whatever have you, right? You ask somebody, it's not really an ask, it's kind of a subtle command. Tell me about. Notice how his brain stopped for a second. And he was all, oh shit. Like, you can't just respond with it's green. Right? What color shirts do I wear in purple? Right? Purple, just purple. Why do you wear a purple shirt? Because I want to. What's making you wear a purple shirt? How come you wear a purple shirt? Who else wears purple shirts, right? Every question we can ask can be asked better. Every question we ask to help get us further in the process needs to be purposeful. Not just, why do you want to fill your house? Why do you want to buy a house? Why don't you want to put an offer in? Because I don't want to. Okay. Now, can we ask questions that will help us further our negotiations? What kind of questions are those? Assumptive closes? Trial closes? You ever heard of those? Trial closes are great questions you can ask that will test the waters of the negotiation. Raise your hand if any of these sound familiar. Can you see yourself living here? Would this fit your needs? Do you like the neighborhood? Wasn't this like what you were looking for? Oh man, you think your car could fit in the driveway? Oh, can you see your kids playing in that backyard? These are all questions that are surrounding who, right? They're who questions formed differently. They're yes or no, but they're creating elements in the brain, but they're testing the negotiation. They're testing the water. If I just ask you, Tina, do you like this house? Yes or no? Now, Tina, can you see yourself living here? It's still the same yes or no question, but does one create a mental image and the other one creates a response? Right? How often should you be laying in questions in conversations that test the water of the transaction? Robin, I saw some lip reading. I couldn't see it.
I said probably a lot.
If it's coming from me, you can probably assume I'm leading towards something, right? So when we have conversations, we should constantly, there's that term, ABC, always be closing. It doesn't mean you need a hard press. Tina says, right now, put your name on the line. Let's sign. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. But it could also be like, hey, how comfortable are you with me selling your house? You can see that working together is a win-win, right? You can see that selling your house right now is a perfect time to do so. And based on the information you already know, who else do you think needs to know this before we can make the decision to sell your house? Right? Multiple questions, but they're not the hard ask, but they're testing the water. Ask 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times before you guys get to a close. There's no problem. You're always working with buyers and sellers, even if they're not buyers and sellers. Could be friends, family members, coworkers, people that live at the gas station. I was on the phone with the lady from Geico this weekend. She's all, hey, welcome. I'm from Tucson too. I'm like, that's awesome. Do you know any good realtors? Just making conversation. And before she said anything, I was like, well, now you do. And she's like, oh man, I wish I'd have known you 2 months ago. I was like, well, you know me now. Just have fun with it. But don't be afraid to ask questions that you may not like the answer to. You'll get information you can get out of it. So who do you know that doesn't know you? How can we get them to know you better? What do you know? Or what do you need to do to get them to know who you are? Right? I'm working backwards on the triangle. You can utilize those 3 questions any direction you want to create higher engagement with stuff. Don't be afraid to lace it in with other closing techniques like, assumptive closing, which is the words like we, together, our, your, welcome home. Hey, you know what? Let me open your door. What do you guys think of your backyard? Not, what do you think of the backyard? There you go, Renee. Perfect. She's trying to figure out her green screen in her office.
It really is though, because if I have it there, you can see the white wall.
Oh yeah, it's a green screen. I used to use it all the time. My office used to be in there.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right, I want you guys to come up. What are some other powerful questions you can get that will help incite a response that may help you move a buyer or seller towards a goal? Feel free to use any of the ones I've given you.
What would it mean to you if you could sell your house today?
Yeah. What would it mean to you when
you sell your house?
When you sell your house with me. So, Amber unmuted. What do you got?
Oh, I don't know. There's so many things going through my mind right now, like how it could be anything of how, I don't want to steal Robin's because that's when she said it, I was starting to think of how I would say it or how.
Well, how would you say it?
Just like you said, when you sell your house and we put you in this house, what do you know what schools your kids would be in or something trying them to connect them something personal that they are looking for. I'm going to try to find that, hey, it's in the Unionville School District. It's right here. It's that type of thing.
Right? How about this? How would your cats feel in this house? Where do you, and if they got kids, whose room's going to be what? Get them to place rooms.
Where would your husband put his shelving for the garage?
Right?
I did that with that 720 house that I just did. Where would you put your bikes? He has 6 of them.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Bicycles or
Here.
motor scooters?
Bicycles. He has 6 bicycles here and 1 in Texas, and she has 1 in Texas.
I haven't owned 6 bicycles in my life.
Me either.
I had
But I
to
had to
find
ask
a
for that
house-
because it didn't have a 3rd car garage.
Yeah. What was that, Miss Robin?
I had to find a house that had room for 5 cars for your friend.
Oh yeah, you did. What's important about this was 5 cars. Kind of an anchor. And if you guys didn't know, he was a race car guy from a different path of mine.
Did you find a house with a 5-car garage?
No HOA and a gate to get them into the backyard.
That works.
I sold a 5-car garage house 2 years ago. I kicked myself over it.
I'm trying right now.
So
It's huge.
other questions you can ask to help motivate conversations, right? Who needs to be involved in this conversation? Any real estate conversation, is it answered by one person?
Not you.
No. Who else is involved?
You love this house. Have you talked to your lender about paying for this house?
Lenders.
Or when are you going to reach out to your lender to make sure, this, even though it's over your budget, but let's see, ask him or her if it's something you can do.
Right? Have you communicated with your lender? Well, you told me that you need to talk to your mom about everything. How do you think your mom's going to feel about it? One of my favorite, we're going to move into objection handling here in a couple of minutes. I'm going to do 30 minutes on questions and 30 minutes on objection handling. So 2 more minutes on questions. What other questions are important beyond who, how, and what?
Where questions?
See, I saw that. This is the trick, was Devlin and Shannon both went when and where. When and where are variants of what? What time, what place? So if you don't know a question to ask and you're trying to get there, you can interchange when and where with what. Not why do you want to live here? Where would be ideal? Not why did you choose now? When is a good time? Why do you want to eat? Why do you want to meet on Friday? What time on Friday is important to you? What makes Friday important, right? When and what place, what time, when and where, sorry, what place, what time, you can get those questions in there. So it's important. But we're very quick to try to find the why behind something and not the important energy underneath it. So if we can understand the reason for the answer doesn't always matter. I need a 4-car garage. What's important about a 4-car garage? Not why. Right? I need a master bedroom with 3 closets. Okay. Who are the other closets for? If you're talking to a single chick and she's like, I need 3 closets. Okay. What are you going to do with the other closets? Well, how are you going to use 3 closets? Well, I have an extensive bag collection. One of my good friends, her name is Grace. She bought a house in the Foothills Estates up at Skyline Reserve, $500,000 house. And it's 3-bedroom, 2-bath. One of the bedrooms is a closet. The entire thing is a full-blown closet. So now she has 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a giant ass closet. So it's not always the house that we think and for what reasons. We want to understand why. When she bought the house, it was important that she had a room directly across the hall from hers for that very reason. Are all houses built that way? No, some are next door. Wouldn't have worked. Had to be directly across the hall so that she could put a doorway in and just walk between the two. And she could close the closet door and no one would know it was a closet. So when you're overcoming objections, it's important to ask good questions as well. Now, if someone give me an objection you've heard or you think may come up.
I want to know HOA, and this one has HOA.
So what's important about not having an HOA?
I want my RV to sit outside.
Okay. What is it going to do for you when your RV is sitting outside?
Nothing. But when I go to load it, I want to be able to have it sit out in front, in my garage or in front of my driveway so I can load it and plug it in and get everything ready.
Understand. So it's not so much the RV being an HOA, it's just you want to have space to be able to keep your RV on your property. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah, I want to keep it here.
Are there HOAs out there that allow RV parking?
I don't know. You tell me, Mr. Big Name Caldwell.
I'm just saying, as an agent, yes. As an agent, are there communities that have parking for RVs?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes. Are there communities that have garages big enough to put RVs in?
Yes.
So is it an HOA issue?
No.
What's the issue?
Finding a spot for the RV.
Just finding a spot for the RV. Don't limit ourselves by that. Well, I don't want an HOA. I don't want an HOA for different reasons. I wish I had one because my neighbor's RV is always parked in front of his house.
It's funny, I had buyers say that this week.
What?
They wanted an HOA
Yeah.
so that people don't park in front of their house.
That's the thing is this weekend, there was 2 white vehicles in front of my house almost all day. And my kids were like, Daddy, who drives a white truck? I don't know. Maybe Papa's here because my dad drives a white truck too. No, it's the neighbors because they can't park in front of his house because there's a freaking RV there. Different situations, right? Uncovering the reason behind it. What's another objection you've come across and you can hear?
I want at least half an acre of land.
Okay, what's important about the half acre of land?
I want space for my chickens to run around.
Okay. How many chickens do you have?
5.
5 chickens? Okay. So you need a place for your chickens. Do you need just a half an acre for chickens?
Well, I want my daughter to have space to play outside too.
Okay. Do you know how big a half acre of land is?
Yes.
Okay. Break script. The thing is, you can take them. Can you not walk them into a property that's maybe a quarter acre that has a really big backyard that's outside of city limits? Can you have chickens?
And it depends on if the house is up front or way in the back, like that calculates. Yeah.
I had an acre and a half. The house was literally dead center of the yard. I couldn't put a fence around the backyard because it was halfway around the house. I didn't have a front yard or a backyard. I just had a house in the middle of a plot of land. It was the most annoying acre and a half I've ever owned. I've had another acre of land where the house was on the far back. The backyard was 22 feet. The front yard was 300. Are you going to put chickens in your front yard? So it's not always just the land. It's what they're going to do with it, right? So we can think, okay, we can start looking for half acres of land. Jacob, let me ask you, if we were able to find a piece of land that gave you room for your daughter to play and had ample room for your chickens to run around, would it matter if it was less than half an acre?
I see not.
See? Are we not going for a close on that one? It's a soft close?
Yeah.
I've already set up the potential there. Us agents, unfortunately, get ourselves so pigeonholed into finding the perfect house. Half acre, HOA, or half acre, no HOA, single story, no pool, northwest facing, no neighbors, 6 garage camels. I don't know, whatever. we are looking for the perfect house, right? And we just spend so much time looking for the perfect house instead of helping people understand what they can do with the house that's there. By asking good questions, we can uncover the root reasons why people want an acre, no HOA, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, and a den. So that when we find a house that may not be on the surface perfect, maybe it's 3/4 of an acre instead of an acre, but the house is on the very front and the whole backyard is already fenced in and it already has a chicken coop. Are you going to call them up and say, hey, I found the perfect house, but it has 3/4 of an acre instead? No, I don't want it. 1 acre, that's it. Click. Or you say, hey, Jacob, I think I found a house for you. Can you see me 6 o'clock today? Let's go check it out. And you walk him out there and say, look at this backyard. Lily can play in the backyard. Look at all this room. Oh my God, it even has a chicken coop. It's everything you've ever wanted. How much land is this? Oh, about 3/4 of an acre. Well, I told you I wanted an acre. Well, this is less than that. And the good thing is it's in your price range. It has a lot more amenities. Plus there's already a chicken coop. Those of us who have deals already, how many times have you sold a client a house that wasn't perfect?
Everybody should raise their hand because there's no such thing as a perfect house.
There's no such thing as a
Every
perfect
time.
house. Every
Very
time.
true.
I want you to remember that nothing's perfect. There's an element there to be worked through, and how can we work through it, right?
You're looking for 80% of the house that you want, 10% you're going to change anyway, and 10% you can live with.
Yeah. Who's on it to define what that 10% is? If I ask Laura, what is 10% of the house that you can live with?
Where'd your shake go?
10% of the house that I can live with?
Yeah, if I were to ask you, it's 80% of the house you're looking for, 10% of the things you're going to change, and 10% you can live with. Can you quantify how much is 10%?
How much of it? Like 10%, like office has no window. Like
Yeah, Max is yelling about Minecraft.
oh.
Sorry.
Is that what you mean by like 10%? Like
Yeah, but as a buyer or seller, they cannot quantify what 10% means.
right.
All it is a psychological gap that we're putting out there saying that nothing is perfect, nothing is ideal, nothing is going to be 100%. Because it allows the brain to start thinking about those two things. What can I change? And what am I going to live with anyways? Okay, 4,000 square foot house. It needs 2,000 square foot of carpet because it's all avocado green. If I tell them 10% you can live with and 10% you're going to change, what do you think their brain's going to go through? What am I going to change?
The carpet.
The carpet. Is that 10% of the house? No, it's freaking 50% of it. Well, if you split it up into floors and walls and everything like that, it's a whole lot more. However, if you look at the price per square footage and the dollars you're going to put on the house versus the carpet, you don't need to get into all that. It's just 10% of the things you can live with and 10% of the stuff you're going to change anyways. Effectively, we're just looking for a house that's good enough. And then we as agents are going to sell them. This is the only part of the whole thing. It's a sales, is sell them on the life that they gain from buying or selling. At no part of the transaction are you trying to sell them on anything other than reminding them, selling them of their needs and desires. Tina, you told me you need a 3-car garage because you want to have 1-car garage for your knick-knack, paddywhacks, and your dog's bones. This is a 2-car garage, but it's got an extended deep bay on one side, which is effectively a third space. And since you don't need the door, doesn't that give you tons of room for your knick-knacks, paddywhacks, and your dog's bone? We give options, especially in a market right now where you're not finding houses that are perfect or very many of them. We need to find creative ways of helping people understand or envision the possibilities behind what is there. Right? We understand the importance of asking good questions because it's going to help us uncover the motivations, the reasons, the desires, the hopes, the fears, the dreams, everything that goes along with making a decision about real estate. And it gives us some ammunition to then take it to the second part of the objection handling and creating responses and solutions, not just tempering the call. Robin's client called me, was it yesterday, Robin? You called me? You called me at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. My kids are running around like crazy just after nap time. So, you know, it's just hell in my house. And she calls me up and I yell, stop, shut up, sit down. She may have heard that, I don't know. But she puts me on the phone. She's asking me questions. And all of a sudden she's like, oh, well, my client can hear you. I was like, oh, perfect. And I started asking him questions directly. What's important about this? How does that feel? Like making him defend his position so that I knew exactly what the root position was. And then I gave an opportunity that made sense, that he was all, oh, you know what? That's right. That does make sense, which was completely against where he wanted to be. I don't want to pay too much for the house. It was his main objection. I don't want to pay too much for the house. My response, you haven't paid for anything yet. You're not under contract. How are you going to feel if you get beat by $5,000 or $10,000? And his response, I think if I remember, it was pretty bad. I really like this house. I was like, okay, so if you're going to feel pretty bad about that, then the value of the house doesn't matter other than to you guys, right? Well, yeah. Okay, great. Let's get this offer submitted so you guys can buy this house. And I think he went up another $5,000 over even what you and I were talking about on the phone.
8,000 if it doesn't appraise.
And even he guaranteed 8,000 of it, which is a huge thing. All because we reminded him that it wasn't monetary, it was lifestyle. If I tell you, how are you going to feel when you get beat? How are you going to feel if someone eats the last piece of pizza, right? You can start imagining those. If you can create those elements and then you give a solution beyond it, then great. Put the offer in now so you don't lose the opportunity. Eat that piece of pizza now so someone else doesn't eat it. You can get people into action.
And he needed to make a decision quickly, which, I mean, it is hard in this market. Like there's no, oh, go home and sleep on it or make a list of pros and cons. It's like you really do have to get them to make that decision.
And that's the thing, is right now, this is an interesting time and place to be in real estate. And no time better than now to be in real estate. I don't care if you're brand new, just getting in it, or you've been in it for years. Now is the time you can cut out a piece of the market you will never give back. And the way you do that is by asking great questions that incite powerful responses so that you can get into the core of what your clients are trying to do. That is the true definition of a functionary versus a fiduciary. A functionary just does the task, just fills out the paperwork and sends it. A fiduciary understands the outcome, the risk, the reward, and what they're going to do to get their client there. Nothing you do in real estate is as important as rapport building. If you're not able to make a connection and you're not able to have powerful responses, you're no different than Zillow, Redfin, Trulia. Click here to get more information. How frustrating is it for you to click on a website and it doesn't have the answer you're looking for? Right? How many of you felt that in your soul? You're like, that just happened to me yesterday. Hey, Google, how do I tie my shoes in Japanese? Right? Just because they're full of information doesn't mean it's valuable. Sometimes you want somebody just to tell you. Sometimes you just need somebody to break it down and digest it for you. That is real estate. That is asking questions. That is overcoming objections. If you are unable or unwilling to get uncomfortable asking questions, then you're not going to go very far. Take your everyday questions and start turning them into more powerful ones by asking yourself, could I have asked a better question? How could I have reworded that? Who can I connect to on a better level? Right? Those of us who are out there lead generating, you call people, do you know anyone that I can talk to about buying or selling real estate? The brain shuts down, goes yes or no, right? Now jump to the top of the pyramid. Who do you know? that I need to talk to you about buying or selling in real estate. It creates an element of okay, but think of the term. It creates the element of need where the person you're talking to, you have created trust in them having an answer for it. And even them saying, well, you know, I don't know anyone right now. Well, I appreciate you thinking about it. And in the time between you and I talk again, I'm sure you're going to run across somebody. So if you could get their contact information for me and send it to them. Now you're setting them up to do your bidding. You've created an element of essentially assumptive closing. We did it in the car business all the time. It's, you know, you can go somewhere else, and when the price doesn't match, the payment doesn't match, the interest doesn't match, just come on back. So that when those things happen, they're like, oh my God, he told me it was going to happen. We do the same thing in real estate. You know, Tina, if you don't want to, if you don't want to miss out on this house, you got to give your all in offer. Like we talked about this morning in scripts, right? You got to give it your all. What's it going to feel like when you, not if you, when you get beat by $5,000 or $10,000? You're like, oh, it's going to suck. You told me you and your husband love this house. It was perfect. The kids, the dogs, you know, Max has his own room. He's got a doggy door already. It's perfect. You don't have to do anything other than move your stuff in and call it home. How are you going to feel when you get beat by $5,000 or $10,000? It creates an element of huge emotional gap, right? You may have thought $300,000 was overpriced, but the moment I give you that option, you know, it's home, it's perfect. All the things that the who benefits, who's going to live here, who's going to get what, right? You and your husband love it, who. Max has his own room, who. The kids, who. You know, Max has a doggy door, it's another who, right? Then how are you going to feel when you, who, get beat by $5,000 or $10,000? Keeping those questions at high level like that, they're risky because you're creating emotion that you can't control. A lot of times salespeople like to stay comfortable. Do you want to put an offer in? Is that what you want to offer? Okay, perfect. Sign right here. Oh, we got beat. Sorry. You know, a little story. This earlier today, I got an email back from an REO, and it says your offer was rejected by the seller. That's all it said. Automated response from the system. I sent the email to my client. My client says, what? They didn't even respond? I was all, Pamela, you insulted them. Remember when we talked about it 2 weeks ago? If you're not going to offer a decent offer, they're not even going to entertain it. Well, yeah. What do you think was going to happen? Now, because I've set up that conversation before, I set up what happens when you get beat, or what happens, and I told her, what happens if your offer's so low they don't even entertain it? Well, we can't get a counter if we don't put an offer in. Well, what happens when they don't respond at all? How are you going to feel? Well, we want to get a deal, but I'm not paying more. Okay, great. You want to offer 95 and it's worth 130? Cool. I'll submit your offer. But I'm telling you, they're not going to respond. And then a week later, after her emailing me every day, we heard. Boom. Now she comes back to me and says, what the hell? I told you. I advised you what was going to happen. Then it happened. I look like the professional, but I'm still there to guide, advisor. Now the blame's on someone else, which sucks. But I'm like, hey, listen, do you want to put another better offer in? No, we're going to find something else. Okay, great. If it's out of your price range, it's out of your price range. Same thing with your buyers and sellers. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I completely understand you want to list it for $350,000. What happens when it doesn't appraise? Not if, when. If allows the brain to have a loop. Well, who said if? It may not happen. It may appraise, it may not. I wouldn't date you if you were the last man on earth. If. Maybe I'm not the last man on earth. Maybe there's a chance. I'm saying these are things that little words make big impacts if used improperly. Big words confuse people. Infunctuous, right? Also known as doesn't work. So simplify things and be easy, but ask questions and be able to follow up with the emotions. What if? When if? Right? What happens when it doesn't appraise? What happens when we get beat by $5,000 or $10,000? What happens if you find out because you waited, someone else put an offer in? Or what if you find out tomorrow that the person that was thinking about it put an offer in and bought it and you can't do it anymore? How are you going to feel when you wake up in the morning and that house is already under contract? Now, what if it sells? Well, then it sells. But if I ask you, what are you going to feel? How are you going to feel? I've put you mentally in that position. How are you going to feel when we wake up tomorrow morning, that house is under contract? I want you guys to work on that right now, because there's going to be a lot of people with indecision, a lot of people waiting for the right time, a lot of people to, it's got to be right. It's got to feel right. Everyone hear that, right? It doesn't feel right. Now's not the time. What are you waiting for? What happens in 6 months from now? The market triples. How are you going to feel then? What happens if next week the interest rates go up at 1%? How are you going to feel then?
Big Dan, do you remember what, I think it was Emily Erickson said? It was like, don't wait to buy, you want to buy and wait.
Yeah, don't wait to buy because the market will pass you by. Buy and wait for the market to come up and appreciate. Wealth is made in the follow-up. No one saves their way to $1 million. Or so, no one saves their way to financial freedom, is really what it is. Investments are key. And we're going to start talking about investments in the coming weeks, because that's one of the big things I really think that us as agents need to understand is what purchasing a house is. An investment. Well, I bought my house and at $5,000 above market value and blah, blah. Okay, how long do you plan on living there? 20 years? So 3% on average rate of return year over year in real estate in 20 years means your house will be worth $70,000 more, plus the tax savings, plus renting it out if you wanted to, right? It's the investment on some. Because right now, Robin's right, don't wait to buy, because we can buy a house right now at low interest rates. It lasts 30 years, and then the house will appreciate over time when the asset, when you're paying it off, decreases over time. So your investment becomes higher and higher. Now we're talking about net worth. Wealth is not a function of how much money you have, it's what you're worth. Are the wealthiest people in the world cash rich? What do they own?
Property.
Property. They're not Scrooge McDuck. You ever remember Scrooge McDuck? What did Scrooge McDuck have? You guys remember the cartoon? He had a giant silo filled with what?
Gold coins.
Gold coins. He just had a silo filled with gold coins. So all of our generation that watched that cartoon thinks that's what wealth is hoarding the money. And it was designed on the premise of hoarding money, because it was designed and written by cartoonists that grew up in a Great Depression where wealthy people lost their fortunes because of investments. They didn't trust them. What they didn't realize is the investments were done poorly. They didn't ask the right questions. They didn't understand the risk behind it. And had most of the people that sold out during the Great Depression, sold all their stocks and stuff, held into them and waited through it instead of cashing out all your money and losing it, had it waited, when it rebounded 10 years later, would have been rich tenfold. The market's cyclical, so we always do that. So when we got people that are waiting on the lamb, they're waiting for a reason. They're indecisive for a reason. Everything happens because of a reason, for a reason. If you understand the reason, you can engage them in conversation and create the solution. I'm gonna leave you on that point where, as an agent, if you have a solution that they have the opportunity for, you can create some kind of deal. If you have a solution that they don't have the opportunity for, you create an impasse. We have to find out what questions are going to give us the answers we need to create those solutions. Is it always about buying and selling a house? No. There's motivators behind it. It's not always monetary. So if everything on the surface is money, 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 find out why. Find out the truth behind the money. And you're only going to ever do that by asking better questions. If you want some help asking questions, join us in the mornings for scripts and role play. For those of you who've joined into a lot, do I not ask a lot of questions? Do you feel like questions are going to be something you need to master? Even Cody Gibson took something away from me on his script off during family reunion. That is right. He asked, what's important about that as soon as he got the objection? Because if you don't unearth the objection, you can't overcome it. Goes back to automated responses. Raise your hand if you've ever walked into the store and said, no, I don't need help, I'm just looking. Tina, you were there, I saw you, you're at the store. You're like, just looking. And then like 13 minutes later, you're like, shit, I really need help. Where'd that guy go? Those people are in real estate. They need your help. They may say that they didn't because in that moment they were getting flooded by other people, but follow up with them. How is your search going? You know, who have you talked to about real estate lately? All of these things are questions you need to ask. Who went to family reunion? Who did family reunion? I know Robin did, Renee, Tina. You know, we're gonna end a little, you know, what was your favorite part about it, Tina? What is your big takeaway when you were on those calls?
You know, for me, it was really learning the culture and how it mirrored what I'm looking for, as you know, just stepping my foot into this industry. It was real, genuine, and I really liked that.
Good. You're learning that we're not just a smoke and mirrors show.
Yeah, I like that.
You're like, holy crap, 10,000 people said the same thing. Must be true. So we're going to cover some of that stuff. I actually have the access to the recordings, and I wouldn't mind playing some of that stuff for you guys and actually going like a question and answer dive into them. And one of the things was huge was the wealth building aspect of it, the 9 elements of wealth building, because I would love to see every one of my agents foster an environment of wealth around them. Being a homeowner, being multiple property owners, having rental incomes, these things that create generational wealth. Even if it's $200 a month, what is $200 a month over the course of a lifetime? Right? How much is your car payment? What if you had investment properties that paid for your car payment? Now, one thing I took away from it is if you don't finance luxury. You want to go on a cruise, don't put it on your credit card, have cash. You want to buy a car that's a sports car or a motorcycle or a boat or something like that, don't finance it, pay cash. Don't finance luxury. But think about it. If you had an investment that paid $400 a month every month consistently, and you had a liability like an auto loan, or you're putting $400 a month away for your savings to go to Tahiti, wouldn't that be nice to have that every month to pay for your opportunities there? So start thinking about that, my friends. And how can you use real estate to benefit you? And so here's the 3 what questions. What are my goals in real estate? What am I going to do with it? How am I going to affect my life and the lives of others? And who's going to help me get there? You think you can answer those 3 questions, you might have a whole lot more insight of what you're going to do. Who you're in business with matters. Who you let in your brain matters. Who you listen to matters. Do you watch the news and learn about Ted Cruz? Sorry, I forgot his last name. Ted Cruz goes off to vacation and during a Texas blizzard, and that became headline news. I don't give a shit. It doesn't affect my life any. Again, who we surround ourselves with matter, and it includes the stuff you watch, the stuff you listen to, and the stuff you read. When you're having conversations over the next couple of days, I want you to take note of the times where you felt emotionally charged and those when you felt emotionally drained, and understand that the questions or situations that were being asked. And then you can start understanding how you can take those same situations in the conversations you're having every day and create better environments so that you can engage your clients better. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have emotions in conversations. Sometimes you need to. I've made a lot of clients cry. Some big dudes trying too, but when you change their life, it's very emotional. So thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I will see you all later. I will be on the questions and answers call here shortly.
Thank you.